Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a pleasant morning to everyone. I am Harif Badarpi Baondi and I am tasked to discuss about the sedimentary rocks. In this presentation, the objective of this is to describe how the sediment forms and how it consolidates to produce sedimentary rocks. Number 2 is to compare and contrast the textures and composition of these sedimentary rocks and try to explain how sedimentary rocks vary according to their environment of their deposition. And the third one is to describe the different types of sedimentary rocks and the basis of their classification. And the fourth one is to explain how the composition, fossil content, and the presence of sedimentary structures allow us to interpret the origin of sedimentary rocks. The fifth one is to identify the various sedimentary features that characterize deposition in continental, coastal, and marine settings. And the last one is to explain the role that plate tectonic plays in sedimentation and the formation of sedimentary basins. So, we will have an overview about sedimentation and sedimentary rocks. So, malalaman natin kung ano nga ba ang sedimentary rocks. Sediments and sedimentary rocks are formed by cold processes. It means the characteristic of sedimentary rocks vary by the environment where they are deposited. The textures and composition of sediments and sedimentary rocks preserve information about the geologic past. So, malalaman natin kung paano from sediment to sedimentary rock. Ang sediment ay tumutukoy sa unconsolidated material consisting of loose fragments of bedrock, minerals, shells, and or crystals that precipitate directly from water. Ang depositional environments naman are the physical settings in which the sediments are deposited, and ang sedimentary rock can be formed by a variety of processes binding and consolidating sediment together. So yun yung pagkakaiba ng tatlo. So weathering transforms surface bedrock, which is ito yung source rock, into sediment. May dalawang uri ng weathering, which is the chemical weathering. Ito naman ay strips bedrock minerals of most soluble components which are transported in solution to lakes and oceans. And the next one is the mechanical weathering. Ito naman is nagpo-produce siya ng detritus, which is readily to remove and transported to lower elevations by mass wasting or erosion. So here is the example: the sediment production, transport by erosion agents, and deposition. So the relationship of the sedimentary processes to the what's so called the rock cycle. The formation of sedimentary rock, malalaman natin dito kung paano na-form ang sedimentary rocks. So after deposition, sediments go through diagenesis, which refers to the physical and chemical processes that occur as sediment is transformed into sedimentary rock. Ang tinatawag dito ay lithification. Adjacent particles in loose sediment bind together to form sedimentary rock. So, from sediment to sedimentary rock, may processes siya, which is the biological processes involved dito is bacterial activity, growth, decay of plants and root systems, activity of burrowing organisms, and the second one is the physical processes involved dito yung compaction squeezes fragments together and compaction reduces pore space. The third one is the chemical processes is involved in precipitation of minerals from water and other fluids flowing through pore space, and the cementation. There are two main groups in sedimentary rocks, which is the detrital sedimentary rocks. Ito yung tumutukoy sa pag-produce niya ng mechanical weathering, which creates detritus that is transported usually by mass wasting or erosion, deposited and consolidated. And the second one is the chemical sedimentary rocks or biochemical sedimentary rocks. Ito yung nagpo-produce ng chemical weathering, which extracts soluble components from rock may occur as a result of organic or inorganic processes. So, ang Types of sedimentary rocks. Detrital sedimentary rocks ay mayroon siyang mga characteristics, which is the clastic texture and the matrix finer-grained material between classed, wide variety of class composition, grain size, grain shape, and the clastic textures. Granite class, a granitic body was exposed in the source area. B. Feldspar class imply that the sediment is near its source, and C. Quartz indicates that the sediment traveled along the distance from its source. Angular class implies a short travel distance from source. So, detrital sediment transport, ito yung the Missouri Mississippi drainage basin consists of thousands of streams and covers most of the central and southern United States. B. Inset shows the development of the Mississippi Delta. So, the class composition, it depends on the source area. The grain size, sorting, the process by which particles of the same size, shape, density are naturally selected and separated from the similar particles affected by environmental conditions at deposition. The grain shape, rounding. Transport by running water, blunt, sharp edges. Chemical and biochemical sedimentary rocks, it consists of the less common than the detrital, non-clastic texture formed by precipitation of crystals from solutions when concentration of ions reaches a threshold, or the saturation. Evaporites, a family of chemical sedimentary rocks formed by a precipitation of salts caused by the evaporation of seawater. The limestone and travertine form when water with dissolved Ca2 plus and Ca2 negative ions experiences a change in composition, temperature, or pH level that causes it to become a saturated precipitating CaCO3. The biochemical sedimentary rocks formed by organic processes commonly contain fossils of the organisms responsible for their formation. Example of this is the coal. It forms from the compaction of plant remains, provides information on ancient environments and climate patterns. The chemical or biochemical, it depends on environment of deposition. Example of this is the limestone. It can form in a variety of ways. The oolitic limestone and the coral limestone. So, classifying sedimentary rocks. So here, how can we classify sedimentary rocks? Classification by particle size and shape. And this one is the classification by composition. And classifying sedimentary rocks is called formation. Initially, peat is formed. Increasing compaction leads to the formation of lignite, bituminous coal, and anthracite. The source area is identification of individual classification, mineral content, degree of rounding and sorting, and the fossil content is provides information on the age of the rock, depositional environment, and paleoclimate. The sedimentary structures is number one is the bedding, layers of deposited sediment, differentiation and compaction, shape, size, sorting. Layers are separated by bedding plane. Sedimentary structures, deltas form with sediment accumulation at the mouth of a river. Crossbeds are inclined layers formed by currents of moving air or water. The geometry of the crossbedding provides information about the paleowinds, the direction of ancient winds, the paleocurrents, flow direction of ancient currents. The graded bedding with systematic changes in particle size, a common feature of sediments deposited by turbidity currents. The surface structure is number one is the mud rocks, below left, ripple marks below right. Bottom structure occur at the base of beds. Loading grooves form after passage of turbidity currents. The floating grooves forming during passage of turbidity currents. The sedimentary phases describe an association of sedimentary beds, differing characteristics deposited at the same time. Deposition in continental environments dominated by action of streams, strongly influenced by climate. Deposition in coastal and marine environment, velocity and volume of water, beaches, tidal flats, barrier islands, and lagoons. Coastal environments and sea level change. The coastline changes continually as sea level rises and falls. A marine transgression is produced by rising sea level. A marine regression is produced by falling sea level. Mountains formed by plate tectonic processes provide a gravitational potential for the migration of sediment. Plate tectonic explains sedimentary basins which trap sediment at low elevation. Divergent plate boundaries caused by the reef basins when continents start to break apart. And the second is thermal subsidence basins if rifting continues. Convergent plate boundaries caused by flexural basins from one part of the crust overriding the other, causing the lower crust to flex downward. So here is the summary of my topic, which is the sediment is converted into sedimentary rock by compaction and cementation. Sedimentary rocks can be produced by mechanical or chemical weathering and transport. Sedimentary rocks are classified based on particle size and shape, detrital or composition, chemical and biochemical. The knowledge of modern depositional environments allows geologists to interpret the ancient sedimentary record, and source regions and depositional environments are influenced by the plate tectonics. So thanks for listening once again. I am Harif Wadar P. Baundi. Maasalam.